everybody, welcome to my channel. My name is Sharon and this is a channel that is dedicated to all things related to narcissism. Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday I release a new video, so please don't forget to subscribe so that you don't miss any of them, and don't forget to give it a thumbs up. It's a free way you can help me out, and absolutely don't forget to leave a comment so that we know what you have to say. Today's video is going to be a part 2 of a video that my good friend Joe and I began last week about the stages of recovery from narcissistic abuse. Joe is going to be on the channel every Monday, and the two of us are going to discuss topics from a male and a female perspective. Joe, welcome back to the channel. It's so good to have you back.
Thanks, Sharon. It's good to be back, and we're going to talk about the solution now, huh?
Oh, absolutely. That's the best part. Last week, we began talking about the stages of recovery from narcissistic abuse, and we'd narrowed down the stages of recovery to 4 parts. Of course, this is just our opinion, and there really isn't a wrong way to recover. As long as you recover, it's all good. We talked about learning we were married to narcissists, accepting that we were married to narcissists, and today we're going to discuss no contact and moving forward. So we ended the last video by discussing how we ended up in these relationships, basically our codependency and a realization that something was lacking in us, which made us vulnerable to being sucked in by a narcissist. We talked about needing to be healed, and you asked me the loaded question, was my relationship with my ex meant to be to get me where I am today? Basically, was there a reason that you were in a narcissistic relationship? So Joe, I will answer it too, but I'm going to lob it over to you. What do you think? Was there a reason that you were in a narcissistic relationship? Was there a purpose to it?
Yeah. This is just my own belief, my own experience. Nothing happens in this world by mistake. For me, it was a chance at becoming awakened. It was a chance to look at myself. And this is going to be interesting because it's a question that all of us can ask, Sharon, to ourselves, to kind of contemplate on it, because that question led me deeper into asking deeper questions and really just recovering inside from this. How about you? What was it for you?
It's hard to say if I believe, I don't know if I believe that this was purposeful, if this was intentional from the beginning by God, but what I can tell you is that it definitely worked out for my good. Now, saying that, narcissistic abuse is hands down the worst thing that has ever happened to me in my life. It's a nightmare. I wouldn't wish it on anybody. I'm still going through it. I'm still at the very beginning stages of even getting divorced from this person. So with that said, but it's an example to me of God making something good come out of something bad. Definitely, I'm in a better place than I've ever been in my life. I mean, the reality is I wouldn't be in a relationship with you if it didn't happen. There are good things that came out of it. But with that said, I don't know if this was always intentional or, if I was supposed to be this way, but definitely something good came out of it, if that makes sense. So with that, oh, go ahead.
No, sure. I'd be interested to see what other people think, if they've ever asked that question, and if so, what their views is, because everybody's different.
And it does make it a little bit better to have something. It's, when you can think about something good that came out of it, it makes it more bearable. Because going through narcissistic abuse, everybody knows this who's been through it. It's hell. You live in hell when you're going with it. You're going through it. You're with somebody who is severely disordered. They purposely want to make your life painful. They do make your life painful. They essentially steal you. You lose your complete identity when you're in a relationship with somebody like this. You have to fight with everything in you to get out of it. And not everybody can do that. There are people that kill themselves or become addicts and just their life is completely destroyed and there is no salvation. For people like you or I, there's that salvation and that's a blessing. But I'm fully aware that doesn't happen to everybody. What do you think, Joe?
Yeah, if there's anybody listening to this, I'd be interested in the comments, if you don't mind sharing, if anybody ever thought that there was a reason why they got entangled with this, and if so, what it was for. Or, hey, Joe, there was absolutely no reason, should have never happened. Just if you have any insight or feedback, it's always helpful for us too.
Oh, absolutely. People can learn from each other. You know, when I first started learning about narcissism, I know you did too, Joe. We watched a lot of videos because it just helps to know that you aren't alone. So, with that said, as we move forward into discussing healing from narcissistic abuse, getting out of the situation, today we're going to talk about, well, we'll start with the limited contact or no contact. So, Joe, why don't you start? You can tell us what happened when your relationship ended, what the process was from it ending to where you are today, and at the end we'll talk about moving forward. So, what is your contact like with her?
Well, 3 years ago, while I was still in a relationship, I began to research NPD and the symptoms and, what I would do and what to expect. And we all got the same playbook. But my ex has been gone since last June. She had taken our only car, stole every dime out of her account. It was a pretty little chunk. Left me with 2 kids, her mom, in a house full of animals. So it's been since June. At that point, I had discarded her. I could not take her back. I was snapped out of denial. I was no longer in denial. I just couldn't. It was life or death. She's capable of anything. So at first, it was she would call and we would talk about, just her going to treatment because she's a drug addict and alcoholic on top of her disorder. And she also has anti-personality disorder as well. The blunt term for it is psychopath. It was every week or so she would call once or twice. We would text back and forth, and a lot of it had to do with. At first, I was so sorry, and I'm talking about her. She was so sorry, and she doesn't want anything. She understands why I want to get a divorce. It started off as a separation. Then, when she didn't stay in treatment for the 3rd or 4th time, it was like, listen, we have to get divorced. We'll still be friends after. I'm trying to appease her more than anything. I just need to cut ties. Then after a month or two, it was that self-entitlement that these narcissists have. Like, well, after I stole everything that you had and left you destitute with my children, our children, I believe I should have half of this and half of that. Then I'm getting an attorney and the threats. So at first it was like once a week. And then I noticed like, hey, listen, I need to chill out with this and not text or reply or call. It got to the point where when I was in contact with her, I would get very ill. I mean, physically, emotionally, my friends would say I would be on this emotional downward spiral for weeks with these responsibilities, my children, my family, work, paying the mortgage. I called it the desert. I'd be out in the desert all by myself. I wouldn't talk to my friends. It was horrible. I began to realize, though, that when she did call or text, I didn't want to answer the phone. I just wouldn't. And the longer time I was away from her, the more time I had to look at myself. I got a little bit more peace in my life, a little bit more stability, to the point where, here's the thing I wanted to say, Sharon. Those thousands of hours of videos that I watched. Now, remember, I'm a recovered alcoholic and drug addict. Well, I know all about addiction, but it was interesting. Many doctors and psychiatrists said that, like, these quote-unquote relationships are like addiction. Like, I was addicted to the narcissist. So I was able to kind of compare it to a drug. Now, when I first got sober, I realized, like, I thought I was going to first learn how to drink responsibly so I could have a couple and not stop. But what I found to realize was that it was complete abstinence. It was the first drink that got me. Once I got into my system, it triggered that wanting more. One wasn't enough. So with the narcissist, when I first started, I would limit my contact. When I did, I would have this emotional hangover for weeks at a time where it was like, I've got to treat her like a drug. Literally, like the serotonin, the endorphins, the chemical structure, when I related to her, it was just like a drug. Withdraw, push and pull, give and take, silent treatments, the pain of withdrawal, to where it was complete abstinence. We call it no contact in an abusive world. But I had to eventually get to a no contact regime. My sponsor in my recovery group, I got a lawyer and I put a restraining order on her. And from that point forward, I haven't had contact with her for months. And my life has just turned around a lot, you know.
Yeah, I remember, at the beginning of our relationship, she was horrible. I mean, Joe's ex would be, she'd be, this is the thing about narcissists. They don't have any respect. They want to control you ultimately. There's no love. They don't have the ability to love. In Joe's case and in my case, our exes wanted to get back in the relationship with us. Now, you would think if you wanted to get back into a relationship with somebody, you would be kind and generous, loving. I mean, she would just text you at all hours of the night, call you at any time. I mean, it got to the point where for your own sanity, you had to put a restraining order on her because, you would tell her, don't contact me. I don't have anything to say to you. And she would still do it. Is that correct?
Yeah. So at first, Sharon, it was, I'm sorry, I'm this and that. She had that mask up, like she was trying to play the game to get back in. When she saw I wasn't fighting, that mask came right off, and she just showed me who she was. And it was just, now she knew too. I was realizing this, that when she would call and she'd be at treatment, she wouldn't stay, and like she was playing these games with me, like she was getting off on this. I could tell, like from her voice, that she really liked that I was in tears, just saying, I don't want you to die. And like, we have kids, you have something to look forward to. She loved it. There was one time she texted me at nighttime, and I was so upset and emotional that I started texting her back. Like, hey, screw off, this and that, blah, blah, blah. In the middle of me texting, before I could even send it, I got another text from her. I see that you're texting me right now. I know that you're texting me. So make sure you hit the send button when you're done. Like, it was almost demonic. It was just like, holy crap. Like, she knows exactly what she's doing. Like, she knows. But when I stopped giving her the supply, even though I was in pain, I refused to allow her to see it. Like, there came a point where she didn't know. Like, was I, happy, joyous, and free? Was I in pain? And it drove her insane.
Well, narcissists, the whole thing about the relationship is control. They want control of us ultimately. And I feel like they resent that they need us. You had mentioned in part 1 of this that the real con is them, a narcissist, making us believe that we need them, when all along it's exactly the opposite. So the narcissist knows this, and they hate that they have to grovel and get things. They need supply, and it's like they have to beg for it from us, and they resent it. So they can't be kind. They can't be generous. These people, your ex, my ex, they don't want to be in a relationship with us because they care about us, but they want our supply. That's what they're looking for, and they resent that they have to be nice about it. So they might try initially to be their version of nice, but yeah, like you're talking about with your ex, eventually you see exactly who she is. And my ex is exactly the same way. He wants to move back into the house, but he is not. I mean, it's so bizarre to me. It's almost, I've said to Joe, I'm almost insulted by this. Can he at least try? He doesn't even try to be fake. Not that I want him to be fake, don't get me wrong, but it's insulting where
he's been gone for how long?
He's been gone for a year and a half.
So at the beginning, he was like trying to say he was going to get, because your husband or your ex is an alcoholic, definitely has a gambling problem on the side probably, but he was trying to tell you he's like going to change, he promised change, and he was going to get sober and, this and that, right?
Well, yes. Initially, he wanted to tell me that, he was going to AA. I mean, this is actually how you and I got involved. But, he said that he was going to go to AA. And that in itself was supposed to appease me. Just that. Just him saying he was going to AA. He didn't actually have to do anything or make any amends or change. Just tell me he's going to go to AA. Like if I said, well, I'm just going to go to therapy now. That doesn't do anything if you're not doing the steps or actually doing the work. He doesn't want to do the work. He just wants to come back and be exactly how he is. He resents that I've changed. That's really what it comes down to. So he just wants to come back into the house to this day. He wants to just come back into the house just because he feels that technically we're still married. So he's my husband. He deserves to come into this house. How I feel, how the kids feel, don't matter. He's trying to force control on me, basically.
Yeah, you won't look at the part where he was drunk in his vehicle, passed out with a loaded gun down your street, with not just one bullet, but multiple bullets after behind your back you racked up $100,000 in debt and wasn't paying the bills or the mortgage.
Exactly.
Now it's all good because he's going to AA.
Yes, there's no,
anyways.
there's never any, a narcissist never has any acknowledgement at all for the things that they've done. So ultimately, when you know the relationship is over and you know it's just not possible to be with this person anymore, it isn't always easy to, it's probably never, you're never able to do this, is just say, okay, you know what, I'm just going to end the relationship like it's some regular relationship. When you're in a relationship with a narcissist, you're in a relationship with somebody that is severely mentally ill, somebody who actively and purposefully wants to hurt you. So you have to be very careful getting out of the relationship because they believe to a degree that they own you. You're not.
Like we said, there's an exit strategy. We were involved in a game that we never wanted to play. And the people on the outside that have never been through this abuse are like, hey, why don't you just cut the cord and get divorced? Like, okay, and then what am I going to do with my kids and my pets and my mother-in-law? And like, it doesn't work that way. There's got to be an accountability with, at least in my opinion, I needed you. Because you cut through the BS. You didn't give me any excuses. You held me accountable, and we baby stepped our way to an exit strategy and took steps to do that.
Well, yeah, with you and I, a benefit Joe and I have is that, and we've jokingly said that I don't know how somebody could be in a narcissistic relationship and date anybody in the future that also wasn't in a narcissistic relationship, because there's a level of understanding. Joe went through the exact same thing I did. I have good people around me, people that love me, care about me, and tried to tell me, all right, you need to get that divorce. And, then I'm thinking to myself, well, what am I going to do after that? I was a stay-at-home mom for 20 years. I don't have a career to fall back on. I have 2 kids I need to feed. I have a high mortgage I have to pay. What am I going to do? I'm going to be homeless if I do that. Because also, when you're with a narcissist, they really want to hurt you. My ex, we have 2 kids together. He doesn't care. It won't bother him if his kids are living in my car. Like that doesn't matter. So there is, so Joe and I together, we're able to help each other because we understand. I can understand when he tells me fears he has with his ex, or I tell him fears I have with my ex. So we've been able to help each other, and we're hoping that we can help other people with this channel because we get it. We understand, so no contact is the beginning of you getting out of the relationship. No contact, limited contact.
Limited contact. What you don't tell your listeners is you have a freaking graduate degree that, yeah, you were a stay-at-home mom, but you homeschooled your children. We're highly involved with them. You guys got such a special relationship. You're no slouch. It's not like I don't want to work. This was your dream. It was your value. It was your goal. And your dependence right now, and that's going to change. You're making that happen. But, your ex does his responsibility while you're juggling everything to at least pay the bills. And we're talking limited contact and no contact. But every other Friday on payday, you have to call and kiss his you-know-what and to appease him so that you and your kids have a place to stay until you buy enough time to finally, like in a month or so, to cut that cord.
Oh, it's horrible. It's an absolute nightmare that I deal with my ex, because he wants control over me. He enjoys having control over me. So he does, so we're still married. I've mentioned, every Friday I report the things I'm doing. I'm at the very beginning process. In about a month's time, I'm going to tell him that, he's going to find out when he gets served papers. He believes, and this is not me saying, I've never told him this. I've been very careful because I don't want him to be able to come back later and tell me that I led him on. Never. I have never done this. I've never told him that we're going to be together, that there's a chance. Never. But for him, he just, I guess it's because he's a narcissist. Just to simplify it in that way, he feels entitled to me. Well, she's mine. I own her. Like I'm some possession. I'm a thing. I'm not a person. I'm not somebody that has real feelings. See, I'm somebody that he abused horribly. He abused me in every possible way that you can abuse somebody. But to him, it doesn't matter because he goes to AA. He'll try to appease me by saying that. I go to AA and now I'm supposed to just say, oh, please come home. That's the way that he looks at everything. But he is not, he can't even be kind. He's not a nice person. So he literally makes me beg him. Like, I have to go talk to him every 2 weeks and tell him, all right, I know you got paid today, so the mortgage is coming up, the kids need this, or I need to buy groceries. This is how it is, because and this is something to be very careful of. Joe and I have discussed this in depth. I know a lot of people, a lot of women get in this position. You need to be so careful if you are a stay-at-home mom, because you put yourself in such a vulnerable position. You're really in a worst case scenario. And it works out for a lot of people. It works out fantastic. If your husband is making enough money and you can stay home with your kids, I'm all for that. But in my case, I can't sit here and tell you that I never saw a red flag. So if this is you, if you're learning about narcissism and you are in the position where I'm going to be in a lot of trouble if this relationship ends, or, worse than that, you're thinking to yourself, I'm going to have to stay in this relationship because if I don't, I'm going to be homeless. There is a way. It's going to take time. It's taken time for me. This is why I've been in limbo for 1.5 years. Just now, I'm working on getting, all my ducks lined up in a row so that I can get myself out. So I just want to tell you, if this is you, hold on, make a plan. You have to be smart. I've talked to Joe about this at length because I feel like in some ways I'm playing games with my ex. I don't like it. I don't want to play games with him. But Joe, he said, well, you're not playing a game with him. He forced you into a game. This is a life or death situation. You got kids to feed. So it's a horrible situation. So for me, I've had to go limited contact. But once we are divorced, I will never see this person again the rest of my life. He's already given up on his kids. So that's my plan going forward, is absolute, complete no contact.
Yeah, that's I have this restraining order now, and I still every once in a while, like at first I hated her. That hatred is subsiding where eventually I'll fully forgive her. But yeah, I don't ever want to see or talk to her ever again in my life. The atrocities that have been done to me by her, and I had a role to play in that. I allowed it to happen, but it's in the rear view. It's done. It's over. She doesn't have anything to do with my kids. She says she loves them, but, she lost her job, lost her medical. The only thing that she was doing was paying for their cell phones. Well, she doesn't have that. She's not doing that anymore. I will never have to. It's not that I deny what happened and it's a way to protect me. It's just, I don't ever want to deal with it no more. Like, she's done. She's out forever. God bless you. Live, die, do whatever. It's just the opposite of love is not hate. It's just there's no feeling at all like I have for her. It's just, it's indifferent, I guess. Now in my recovery, it's funny. The amends is really my brain making amends to my heart for the decision that it made to stay. Learning to forgive myself is where I'm at. But I'm doing it, and there's hope now, Sharon. You and I are the kind of people that all I wanted was no more drama, no more threats. I wasn't thinking about getting in any relationship. I'm not that kind of dude. I got all kinds of stuff that I'm into. Exercise, music, sales, like all kinds of stuff. I could be content with myself. It was no coincidence how we met. I had to do the inner work to heal. I had to look at my part, self-love deficient, codependency, low self-worth, to be healed. And here we are today with an opportunity where we lost everything, like to be able to have somebody to relate to that's your twin flame, a true blessing that was given to you. Like I told you, nothing happens in this world by mistake. It wasn't a mistake that, how we met, and how similar our circumstances are. And we're free-spirited, independent people. It's not like we were looking for anything. But this could happen for anybody. It's the exit strategy. It's not complete pulling the cord, you're done. There's a strategy involved when you deal with these kind of, I don't like to call them people, just entities, I guess.
Well, let's actually take the opportunity to talk about the last part then, since we're kind of moving towards that anyways. What about moving forward? So we talked about, accepting what's going on, having the limited contact as you get yourself out of the entanglement, because it just is not as easy in almost all cases to just end the relationship today and tomorrow you're living without the person. But what about moving forward? So Joe, for us, it's a little bit different because we've found each other in the middle of this, and that is a unique situation. But just to touch on that just lightly, for anybody who has been in a narcissistic relationship and you have done enough work to be at a good place, you can be in another relationship. I know a lot of people think, oh my gosh, I'm going to end up with another narcissist. Well, I can tell you, being with another narcissist, I'd rather be single for the rest of my life. That's just, it's not even something that I can even contemplate. I'd die. I mean, that's just the worst thing that could ever happen. But if you are at a good place, you're not going to be damaged. The narcissist is damaged for the rest of their life. People that are not narcissists, because just thinking about everything that we've gone through, all the growth we've had, that comes from somebody that's able to change and thrive and learn about themselves. That doesn't happen to the narcissist. Now, I'm going to talk to Joe in a minute about doing our next video on karma, because we'll talk about where the narcissist ends up. But for moving forward, for us, we have the opportunity, all of us, to have a better life than we ever dreamed. Once you're aware of narcissistic abuse, you can get rid of it. Joe was talking about how he wants to forgive his ex, and he doesn't want, her hanging over him and, as he moves forward. We both talked about this. We want narcissism to be in the rearview mirror. The last thing we need is to be in a relationship with each other, and then I'm bringing my ex-husband into the relationship and he's bringing his ex-wife into the relationship. So Joe, how did you move forward? What do you think a good process to move forward is?
I've noticed that, now that I have no contact, there's energy coming back into my life. It's no longer just tunnel vision, pay the mortgage, don't lose your job. It's okay. My youngest is starting school. I've got my business that I'm trying to build. I'm getting this energy back. There's people out there that don't want to be in a relationship. That's cool. I was starting to heal, and I was like, wow, okay, I got this whole life ahead of me, and I could be perfectly content. The most important relationship in my life right now is with myself. I got that through building a relationship with a God of my understanding, but having hope, we talked about, with these divorces, if they took everything, being able to find a twin flame that just came into your life, that we talked about it, Sharon. If we had nothing, I was the fry guy at McDonald's, and this narcissist was out of my life, how free I would be. These fears that we have, we tend to go to the worst case scenario of, oh my God, it's all just fear. Call it false evidence appearing real. We work through that. There's hope. Rebuilding. There's a life out there.
Absolutely, 100%. When you're in a narcissistic relationship, so many bad things happen. It changes you. I'm not the same person. I know, Joe, you aren't. I don't know if any of us are. You become, the way you were when you entered into the relationship is not the same person that you are at the end of it. But all of us, Joe's right. If at the end of my divorce, if I am standing there with $5 in my pocket, I win, because I have my kids, right? I have Joe. I have my animals. I have everything that is important to me. The only thing I've lost is, financial independence, the financial independence that I would prefer to have at my age. But that can be rebuilt. You can always make more money. You cannot always get your life back. Joe and I, we each lost 20 years. I know there's people out here that are listening and they've been with their narcissist for 30 years. Maybe you're still with the narcissist. My parents are still married. My mother is codependent. My father's a narcissist. She's in her 70s now. That's a lifetime. It's like having a life sentence. We are out, we're free. And I know technically I'm still married, but that cord has been severed. I have a plan. I have a plan forward. All of us, if you have your plan forward, life is not over. I know sometimes it feels like it is, but it's doing the work. getting through the work. For me, my relationship ended in December of 2019. So it's roughly a year and a half later. I can tell you, I'm comfortable in my own skin. I'm okay now. I got through it. I got through the worst of it. You're not sentenced to it's not a life sentence. It's like almost like if you had a baby, right? And you put on a bunch of weight, you're not going to lose all that weight in one day. But over time, before you know it, it's all off. You're ready to start again. Joe, what about you? How long did it take you to feel like you were at a good place?
Oh God, I'm not gonna lie. It took me a long time, Sharon. Like, there was a point where I didn't want to live anymore. Like there's people out there like that. I'm here to tell people, like, if I could do it, anybody could do it. Sometimes it's just holding on, like taking minute by minute, day by day. Don't quit till the miracle happens. Give it a chance. And if it doesn't happen, then refund your misery. Get back with the narcissist, but at least give time. It is possible. I'm telling you, because it was impossible for me. When I look back after when I had my car stolen, I had 2 kids. I had to go grocery shopping. When she took $30,000 out of my account, I had not a penny. And these animals, I thought I was doomed. I was done. All I could do was hold on. And I didn't even want to hold on. In my opinion, it was God doing for me what I couldn't do for myself. And as I look back, my faith builds. Like, there's no denying it. I know how I felt back then. I wanted to take my own life. I wanted it over. And because I hung on and I'm able to look back, this divorce coming up and her threats and all that stuff, all I do is I hang on.
But Joe, let me ask you a question though. Tell me the difference between your life last year at this time and today, because I just want people listening to know, like, I know it was horrible, but you're not talking about a 20-year span. So how is your life different today in 2021 from the summer of 2020?
Love has replaced fear. Like, I was an absolute basket case, full of fear. I was a wreck. I was like a narcissist, like a zombie, just tunnel vision, back and forth to work. There was no hope. I was doomed. I was like Groundhog's Day. Every day it was the same damn thing. It was the same emotions. And now today it's like, oh my God, okay, I got a future. I mean, it has nothing to do with being in the relationship. It's like, I have a future. The relationship is like icing on the cake. It's like, holy smokes, it's a beautiful gift. But there's hope. I was hopeless. I was desperate. I was willing to do anything. And now that I have that hope, it's just, there's nothing left but, for me, spiritual growth. And I get that through a relationship with you and the God of my understanding. Like, I'm smiling, I'm laughing. God, last year, my cheeks hurt sometimes because I'm not used to smiling and laughing, It's just a 180, complete 180.
So that's just, I want to give you guys hope, and it was the same at the beginning when my relationship was over. This has been a year and a half. I was literally, there was one night I was laying in my bed and I thought I was going to have a heart attack because my ex had stopped paying every single bill. I didn't know what I was going to do. It was Christmas time. I was like, oh my gosh, how am I going to buy gifts for my kids? We're going to be homeless. The electric, I was getting a notice from the electric. They were going to shut that off in 10 days. I was panic stricken and it was just me here with the kids. And I'm thinking to myself, oh my gosh, I don't want them to find me dead. I mean, I really thought there was a chance I was going to die overnight. I was afraid to sleep. So I'm trying to talk to my kids and I'm like, oh guys, if anything ever happened to me, and I'm telling them people to call because I thought there was a chance they were going to find me dead from stress. And here today, like Joe, and I still have the divorce to go through, but I can tell you I have hope. So much can change in a relatively short amount of time. I know a year might seem like forever. A year is too much. But think about last year with COVID, right? If you think about when you were scrounging for toilet paper, and now today, it goes by quick. It really does. All of us, just give it time. You need to give it time. Don't give up. Just a few months and so much can change. For Joe and I, a year later, we're in such a different position, and that can be for everybody. Now, this video is long, so I'm going to end it now, but I wanted to just give a little brief preview of what we're going to do next Monday. So here we are talking about how our life has changed so much. Now, while our life has changed for the positive, Joe, what about our exes? How does life look for them right now?
Karma's a patient gangster, so they say, and it's not pretty. Not everybody gets to bear witness of the just mortification, they call it, the decomposition of such a vile, vicious, malicious thing like them. I've been able to witness it, not just in my ex's life, but every narcissist that I've ever been in entanglement with. It's not pretty. There is justice.
Yeah, right. He's right. Next week, we will let you know where our exes are today and fill you in on karma, because Joe's right. Karma's going to come get them. So thank you so much for watching this video. I really appreciate it. I know this one's a little bit long, so I hope you all made it to the end. Joe, thank you for coming back, and we'll be seeing you every Monday. Is that correct?
Yep.
All right then. So I hope everybody has a great week. I'll see you by myself on Wednesday. And like I said, unless something goes wrong, I will definitely be back on Wednesday. And God bless you, everybody.
God bless you.